welcome on, Bienvenue. Welcome to yet another Portfolio Executive Podcast. Yay, go us. This is the glorious number 2. Now, we've already done some earlier ones, some pre-podcast recordings as well, but this is the second in this series. Very pleased to have back in the virtual studio, David Parry, and of course, my podcast pal, Valerie Merrill. Valerie is a learning development specialist, and David is all about business scaling. And we have already had one really cool conversation talking about exactly that. The first one, if you haven't caught it, is available on YouTube now, and that's called Growing Pains. So if you are a growing business and you're looking for what you should do next and what to look out for, that's possibly a conversation you might enjoy, seeing the inception of some of the ideas that we throw out and how David bats them back to us. Now, this one is all about the next step, which is hiring, and why hiring more people doesn't necessarily fix the growth and sometimes can even make it far worse. So let's get into it. There we go. I've assumed the position, as the actress said to the bishop. And here we are today talking about hiring. David, I thought that sometimes, I'm going to be a bit mischievous, so bear with me. I thought that it's just a silver bullet. All you've got to do is hire the right person and off you go. Everything's fixed.
Yeah, it's good in theory, Gareth, isn't it? But the reality, I'm sure we've all been there, the reality is not quite that. And so maybe it's because you didn't go through the right processes or to hire in the first place. Of course, that's one area. But maybe you did do the right thing. Maybe you did screen the CVs properly. Maybe you had a great interviewing process. It wasn't just an hour in the pub and you get on with each other. And so yeah, we'll recruit them, which used to happen, of course, in the past. And maybe it's not an AI thing, but you've done all the right things. You get them interviewed, and then you recruit them, and you go for a week, or maybe 2 weeks, or maybe 2 months, and the honeymoon period, and it sounds great, but something in the back of your mind says this isn't working, and there's something it didn't feel. It's not. It wasn't a magic wand that you thought it was going to be. And even I paid a lot of money for somebody, and they no, you know what? They're not delivering the miracle that I thought they were going to deliver. And it usually comes from the assumption that bringing in that capability, that new recruit, is going to fix the structural problems that I had in the first place. And my struggle, as we spoke about previously, if I've reached a point where the business is growing, and it's outlived that sort of intuitive phase in a business, the entrepreneurial phase, that just bringing somebody else on, I can have more problems for myself as the founder. So instead of having the right kind of processes, the right workflows for this new person and what they're supposed to do, when they're supposed to, how they're supposed to do, and so on, I just assume how many how many companies have I been in where the founder assumes because this person said they sold for BT or for some mega company and they built millions of pounds of business, they're going to bring them to them, and then they wonder why they don't, because they're not fitted into their business. They're not defined the role properly for that business. Yeah.
I remember I was brought in because I used to do sales specifically of Cisco and Cisco related kit at
Right.
one stage for a few years. Um, and I left the gold partner I'd been with for some time, and I was looking for work. And this company brought me in, and they assumed that my biggest client was Debenhams, and back in the other one, they assumed that when they brought
You
me
bring
in,
Debenhams with you.
there you go.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
of course it wasn't. Debenhams have a huge, long process by which they bring
Yeah.
in suppliers. We'd taken ages to get that point. Yeah, I'd led that team, but why would they suddenly jump ship? They would be an idiot to do so, just on my
Yeah.
say so. Valerie, in my mind, it's not always the new hire's fault that the
No,
expectation has been set
the
way too high.
expectation on both sides. So it's expectation from whatever the founder or MD or the interviewer said as part of that whole process, and also on the founder and MD's side when they're thinking about this person's going to come in and immediately change everything. Now, if you hire too high, you'll find that sometimes that person will come in with skills that are matching, if not in advance of yours, and therefore are going to, in the best possible word, feel that they can't progress because there's something holding them back. you're
Right.
doing the things the way things could or should be done. If you hire too low, then they need a lot of direction from you as the founder or the MD, and you haven't got the bandwidth to do it. So it's not actually the role, it's the structure that's underpinning it,
Yeah,
or the analysis that needs to go about determining what level that role would be.
So
yeah.
it's a Goldilocks hire you really want, isn't it? One that's it's not too soft, not too hard, not too sweet. How do you know? It's like a
Well,
minefield, Dave.
I would say, Gareth, it's defining exactly what you need that person to do before you
Yeah.
hire them, and not as your point, Valerie. I mean, I could think of an example. I won't mention the company, but think of an example where a very senior person was hired into
Yeah.
a mid-cap, mid-level, good business, but mid-level business, and the founder had given this new person the belief that they would become the CEO of the company in due course. Now, it was never going to happen, never going to
Yeah.
happen. But it took 6 months for the new person, was a really capable person, but it took them 6 months to figure out that that was the case, and then they left. So they
Yeah.
wasted a huge amount of time and energy on both sides by recruiting
Uh,
the wrong person for the wrong reason. So you have to be really crystal clear of what this person is going to do, how they're going to do it, what their boundaries are, what their decision-making abilities are, and where
uh,
those are, and then they can translate that into impact on the business. And be very clear. I mean, you know Valerie better than me. I mean, I've got passion about onboarding, onboarding people, not just salespeople. I've seen it go wrong so many times.
yes.
Where well, they should know, shouldn't they? I mean, that's nonsense.
Yeah,
I've recruited this person, therefore they should know. You know.
but so often founders end up feeling disappointed having what they've brought on, what they think is the perfect hire.
Well, and it's not because the founders got it wrong necessarily. It's because they haven't defined, or they, you said providing the support around the founder. If they haven't got that framework to bring them into, then it's going to go wrong. So it's just being very clear about what the role is, what they expected to do, set the ground rules, and track through, during the I sound
Yes.
like a consultant. During the onboarding process, it's still got goals, so your daily, weekly, monthly goals that that
Yes.
that both sides can feel comfortable with. So, am I progressing? Yeah, because we've all agreed this is what I'm going to do in day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 30,
Yeah.
day 60, day 90, and then you get growth. Then you get progress. But you have to set those ground rules in the first place, not just expect it to happen. Yeah.
Okay, I've got one. I've got one for Valerie. Valerie, in my experience, a company that's gone through a whole bunch of failed hires, they brought them on. They've either let themselves down or it's let them down, whatever. And that creates, so David has referred to me previously as long-term reluctance. Why do you think
Yes.
that?
Well, there's long-term reluctance for a variety of reasons. One is sometimes you recruit people with the best will in the world. You've done all the things that you thought you should do, and they do need some support and training. You give them that support and training, and then after 6 months, they toodle away from you. So you feel like, all your hard work's gone down the toilet. There's also the element of um, people, that when people start with you, you've got an extra person that needs to be looked after, because everybody brings their own set of issues and concerns and problems. So, and that you need that bandwidth to get them introduced in the right way to how the company does things, and absolutely track not only at the beginning, but as the weeks and months go by, to see if what you thought they were going to do, they are doing, and they are doing well, to the level that you wanted and that they wanted to achieve. So it's a two-way street where
Yeah.
you've got to be supportive and look after people, and also so that everybody feels they're doing a good job and you're happy as the founder with them.
Yeah, and
But
there's not
David,
and there's not
David,
just putting
especially
the
in sales, it
yeah.
can feel like it's turning into a revolving door.
because you train them and then they leave and they
Train,
leave.
let go.
Okay,
Train, let go. Train, let
but
go, and on and
okay,
on.
but that kind of back to what Valerie said. It's making sure I'm recruiting the right person for the right job, because it is about growing somebody. I work with some senior people, and they can still, like athletes, they can still grow, they can still perform. There's still more you can do,
Yes.
and as long as you recognise that, and you're helping someone grow on their pathway. We talked earlier on about servant leadership. It's about helping somebody else excel at what they do. If they're happy, you're helping them grow. They're not going to run away from you. Trust me, they'll stay with you. Just at one point you said earlier on, Valerie, about the as a founder, you need to look after, make sure that they're onboarded properly and so on. It doesn't have to be the founder. The founder just
No,
has
it
to make sure
doesn't.
that,
No.
so if there are other people, around the business, yes, they do need to understand what the ground rules are, what the HR systems are, what I don't know, whatever process is. Doesn't have to be the founder that does that, but somebody has to do
No.
it. As long as the founders created the environment or the flows in the business that people are responsible for that, then it can happen. That's the key. It shouldn't put more pressure on the founder.
But
That
it was interesting
Yeah,
if it was a senior role, like David, the one you described
yeah.
before, if it was a senior role where they were expecting to be able to do X and Y in due course, then you would want, if they're going to be at the same level as you, as the founder, you would give them that access to you
But
without the
also to your colleagues. So if you've got, I'm assuming that you've got more than just a founder now. It's not just a single person. But if
Yes.
you,
Sure.
if you're recruiting people that level, I mean, in this case, it was, I don't know, I think 60 or 70 people in the company, and they had a senior leadership team of
Right.
5 or 6 people,
Yes.
and they're bringing in this very senior person. And it's also about even that. It's about managing how you do that, managing that with how you do it in a way that
Yeah.
doesn't hack everybody else off if they're growing the company. But yeah,
And
but yeah,
people when they're in a
on the sales thing,
mm,
Gareth. I mean, yeah, you and I both. I mean, I spent my life coaching salespeople, running sales teams around the world, and of course, you will get people that will come in and go. Most people want to perform. I think.
yes, yes,
I mean,
agree.
you get the occasional person that shouldn't be there in the first place, but most people want to grow. Most people want to find their passion. They want to come to work on a Monday morning, and look forward to it, and leave on a Friday night, think, "Ah, it was a great week, and I'm going to enjoy my weekend," or what. But so it's up to us as a business to make sure that we create that environment for people. Then they're not going to go away from you. But if you get a situation where you recruit someone opposite of the senior person, the other end, you recruit somebody, a junior person, and you promise them the earth, and then you don't give them the training, you don't support
Mm,
them, they feel underperformed. You as a founder get more frustrated because they're not bringing in what the sales that they should bring in, and
yep.
eventually either you'll fire them or they'll leave of their own accord, and nobody
Well,
wins.
they just disengage, don't they?
It's not fair on the business, it's not fair on the founder, it's
No,
not fair on the
no.
individual that you brought in. So yeah,
And
but if you
depending
get it right,
upon
people first, people first. So of
I
course,
remember I moved to a brand new business. I'd been with a company for quite some number of years. I moved there and I recommended, they were looking for new staff, and I was head of sales in commercial. And they said,
yeah.
we need someone, a real get goer who can really just take it on and get on with it and close a figure. We're looking, I think it was above 100 and something thousand a year. And we need them just to hit the ground running. So I knew this lady from the previous business I was at, who were doing exactly that. And I brought her in. She sat back on her haunches and did sod all for about 6 months and just took the money. And I felt so embarrassed. But you can never tell. You can never tell unless the motivation is there.
Oh, okay, yeah, but the motivation. But so in that situation, Gareth, I'd be looking at whoever the manager was. So for me, it isn't necessarily the
mm,
individual. I'd be saying, what's that manager doing to
mm,
motivate them, to drive them, to track them, to make sure that they're doing the things that they expect to do, setting the
mm.
expectations out clearly. I wouldn't allow someone to go 6 months to get to that point. Not a chance.
Well, is there an element of if she was doing so brilliantly before, she was in an environment where she thrived. What
Yeah.
has changed in the new world, which is not
didn't have
allowing her
Yeah.
Well,
to
that was the point.
thrive?
I was commercial sales. She was in corporate sales. So she was dealing with the corporate guy, and the corporate guy wanted to constrain her and lock her down.
Yeah.
And before she'd had total freedom because she'd been with the
Yes.
company since it grew from nothing. And
Right.
that was what it was. It turned her completely off.
Well, and you know what, Gareth, that's something else that happens in business, isn't it? So, yeah, I think we talked about this before. As a founder, things get more complex, they get more busy, so you get more pressure to perform as a founder. And therefore, what that can end up being is more controlling because you want to keep control. And so as it grows, you want tighter control. And that, of course, that in turn stifles the very creativity and the growth that you
Agree.
want from the
Yeah,
people in the first place. Yeah.
absolutely. Mm. And that's down to understanding that you need to give them the space to grow and to thrive. I mean, you don't buy a dog and wag your own tail, do you?
Well, another expression, I think, Valerie, is that I used to be a school teacher many years ago. And I used to say that in my classroom, there are rules of the classroom within this classroom. These are the rules of the game. Inside that you can do whatever you want, ish. I didn't use that expression. But there was freedom, but bounded by rules. Same thing in business. You need to have ground rules in the business, and there's freedom to help and grow and encourage people along the
Mm,
way. Yeah.
mm,
But without rules, then you'll fail anyway.
In that particular example I gave, she sold by personality. And so all her big sales were huge companies that
yes.
were about style and fashion, because she was all about style and fashion. So, she was selling to Fendi, she was selling to, Paco Rabanne and people like that. She was making enormous sales there. But her boss here wanted her to log in with him every morning and every evening
All
and have
right.
a
Okay.
You
report
Yeah.
can't work
daily.
like that.
Well, she
No,
could, certainly.
Yeah.
no.
Okay. I've got one question really, which is the overall question, and I totally understand if you're going to can't say, like, this couldn't possibly answer it. So, what needs to be designed in a business, David, before you can actually talk about headcount increase?
Well, we're right back to the foundation that we said earlier on, where if I've set the plan out of how I'm going to grow this business, yeah.
Right.
So in my 3 circles or my 3 years, and I say, okay, so one path is that I need to get, I don't know, I need to grow £3 million worth of sales from a million, and that means I need 10 major accounts, let's say. Yes. So I set out the goals, but then it's back to how do I get those 10 accounts? What kind of approach, selling to major accounts is different from selling widgets. So what kind of person do I need? What kind of activities do I need? What kind of support do they need? So I design all of the before I've even thought about going out to recruit any salespeople. I've already designed. I've set up my business goals. I know where I want to go, and I've designed the things I need to do in order to get there. Now, what I'm doing, I'm looking for the person that can fit into that pattern, into that flow. So I'm now looking for a very specific person that can deliver the goals I've set out, or the activities that I've set out in order to get the results. I use an expression about the Merlin the magician. You love this. There's something called the Merlin strategy, and Merlin magician, of course, used to step forward in time and look back to see how he got there. And there's a business strategy and it sounds ever so simple, but there's a similar logic. Whereas a business say, well, where do I want to get to? Now let me step forward 3 years in time and stand in that place and say, what does my business feel like? What does it look like? What's around me? What kind of people have I got? Well, I am in the same building. I'm in a bigger building. So I start then to envision what my business is like in the future. And then I step back from that and say, okay, well, how did I get here? What did I do the year before to get to this, and so on and so you come back to where you are. Does that make sense? So yeah.
It's kind of NLP speak.
What's your thoughts on that? Just the final thoughts before we sum up.
I agree. I think the strategy and the plan has to be there before you can think about, you need some resource, but it's what does that resource look like? And you can only do that with the structure and the key pillars that David's been talking about. Completely agree.
Well, it only remains for me to say thank you so much, David. David is a business scaling specialist and strategist. Valerie, Merrill, a learning and development specialist. Of course, Gareth, like your friendly neighborhood LinkedIn specialist. We present the Portfolio Executive podcast. David's our special guest today. We'll be talking about other things in future weeks. Feel free to comment, like, love, and share with your friends, your neighbors, your family. Please just help us get it out there, because there's an awful lot of stuff to be said, and I think a lot of people need to hear it. If you can please like and subscribe, that really helps us get noticed, and we're trying to get noticed in this many and varied world. Please keep your feet on the ground, keep reaching for the stars, and please look after your mental health. Until next
Bless you all. Take care.